Well, after those disgraceful scenes that we saw of far-left extremists repeatedly vandalising monuments and statues, including, of course, Sir Winston Churchill's statue, frankly, I was amazed that that was allowed to happen repeatedly. But the government now seemingly looking to do something about this. As the Telegraph report today, Boris Johnson is to give a minister the power to veto the removal of statues, plaques and memorials across the country to help guard against campaigners and politicians bullying local officials into wiping out public heritage. The government is preparing to change planning rules to allow Robert Jenrick, the Housing Secretary, to take over formal applications relating to the dismantling of statues and other monuments, rather than the final decision resting with councils. Now, before I get to what Robert Jenrick has written today in the Sunday Telegraph, I think it's important to reflect on just how minority view these sort of far-left saddos who are incredibly ignorant about this country and the history. I mean, they are basically a lunatic fringe. And just to back that up, because I think all too often the media overlook actual public opinion in this country, just look at this Delta poll for Policy Exchange. This was done, I think, back in June of 2020. 65% of Brits saying it's unfair to make judgments about people in the past based on today's values. Statues of people who were once celebrated should be allowed to stand. When asked, generally speaking, from what you know of the UK's history as a whole, do you think it is? 69% say something to be proud of. Just 17% say something to be ashamed of. And do you think the statue of Winston Churchill, Britain's Prime Minister during the Second World War, should be removed or not? Only 11% say it should be removed, and 80% say should not be removed. So that gives you the context, because I think all too often there's a minority, a small minority of far-left extremists who basically hate this country. They're incredibly ignorant and immature. But that just shows you, when it comes to Winston Churchill's statue as an example, just 11% say it should be removed. So these people are not representative of public opinion at all. They are, in my opinion, a lunatic fringe. As for what Robert Jenrick is now saying, this is the Telegraph piece today: we will save Britain's statues from the woke militants who want to censor our past. It is our privilege in this country to have inherited a deep, rich, fascinating and yes, often complex past. As he writes, latterly there has been an attempt to oppose a single, often negative narrative, which not so much recalls our national story as seeks to erase parts of it. This has been done, he says, at the hand of a flash mob or by the decree of cultural committee of town hall militants and woke worthies. He says that we live in a country that believes in the rule of law, but when it comes to protecting our heritage, due process has been overridden. That can't be right. Local people should have the chance to be consulted whether a monument should stand or not. He goes on to say, I am changing the law to protect historic monuments and ensure we don't repeat the errors of previous generations. Proper process will now be required. Any decisions to remove these heritage assets will require planning permissions, and councils will need to do so in accordance with their constitution after consultation with the local community. Where that does not happen, he says, I will not hesitate to use my powers as Secretary of State in relation to applications and appeals involving historic monuments. Our view will be set out in law that such monuments are almost always best explained and contextualised, not taken and hidden away. More details will be set out in Parliament tomorrow. He also says that what has stood for generations should be considered thoughtfully, not removed on a whim or at the behest of a baying mob. So there you have it, guys. I'm a very proud Englishman. I think this is a wonderful country. And frankly, the far left extremists that want to go around desecrating our heritage are a bunch of loons. The government needs to be much more robust on this. This sounds positive, but I certainly think, as for those who actually physically do desecrate our heritage, do desecrate statues, they need to face much harsher penalties. But let me know what you think, guys, in the comments below. And as ever, if you've enjoyed this report, if you found it helpful and informative, please do give this video a big thumbs up. We'd really appreciate that. And of course, guys, as ever, thanks so much for watching.